Hello everybody, it's me Charlansky, and this is I'm the introverted empath, and this is my story to glory. I did something very brave today, and I want to talk about it because it's a part of me, my history, and my legacy for you. I had a patient. She had a low-grade fever, and I was concerned, so I was monitoring her. I let her get some rest. Later on in the day, her fever spiked, and it's a chance that she could have been exposed to this pandemic, this virus that we have, because one of our staff members had it, and they're on quarantine. So I was following protocol. We were able to get like lab scheduled and everything. So later on in the day, she ended up getting a higher fever. So we had to get our management involved, and our nurse practitioner insisted that we started the COVID test and do a COVID test. And the management really wasn't agreeing with it, but I was like, the nurse practitioner really insist on it. So they got me all the materials and everything, and they gave me the documentation. They told me how to do it, and they said, oh well, when you finish, give the package to the executive director. So I'm like, okay, sure, so I got all the information, I collect the specimen, and I took it to my executive director, and he was like, what is this? I'm like, well, I was instructed to bring it to you after I got the sample. And I noticed that the DHS, director of nursing, had called him on the phone as if like I just kind of jumped and did it myself. And so that she was trying to manipulate the situation, make it seem like I just jumped and did it and gave him the stuff without really following through, because she said she told me to talk to him first. No, they gave me everything and set me up. I did the sample and took it to him, but she was like, well, give it to him and he can take it and transport it. That's what his job is. But she used me as a pawn, and I didn't like it. And then she tried to talk to me face to face with him as if I was the victim, and that's manipulation. And I read past stuff like that, and we all read past stuff like that, and this things happen to us. But the thing we have to question, is it right? No, it's not right. So I stood up for myself today. I even made sure that I got the urine sample before I left. I worked very early in the morning. I was over 3 hours over my shift, and I still stayed to ensure that we even got the urine sample completed. And unfortunately, they didn't draw the part of the urine in a different tube that you can collect a culture, which they find out if it's bacteria or different antibiotics, if they're effective. So no, they didn't get that part. So it was like, wow, I went through all that and they still didn't get the culture part. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So she needs her urine done again before they start the antibiotic. So she goes, well, I need the culture done before you leave. I'm like, who do you think you're talking to, first off? But I'm being a professional. I was like, okay, all right, sure. I make sure it's done before I leave. So I went and I got the urine before I left, and the following nurse took it and did what they need to do with it, put it in the tube so that they can pick it up. We do not have STAT, which is emergency pickup for urine, only blood specimens, things like that. So no, we couldn't send the lab out. We don't go out and drop them off because this facility doesn't do that. The lab completely deals with the handling of the different type of body substances that we draw for testing. So the thing is, she was just like, she was expecting me to do that. So the next day, I'm at work, and I come in, and she comes in and she goes, did you get the culture? I was like, did you draw it? Did you draw the culture? I was like, yeah, I got the urine. And I gave it to the nurse, and the nurse basically gathered it and did what she had to do with it. She was like, well, where is it or something? I was like, I guess in the fridge. And she was like, well, that was supposed to be taken to the lab. I was like, we never do that. I never did that. Like, I don't understand. But she was like, because they need to know that, well, before this and before that. I'm like, okay. She went off on me. She was loud and rude, and it's not for her to be loud and rude with me if I can't address her about her attitude. So I'm like, okay, whatever. It kind of irritated me, but I'm not gonna get ghetto or unprofessional, so I just did my thing. and continue what I was doing. So I did try to address her immediately after inside our nurse practitioner's office, and I said, what happened? I was like, well, we don't technically ever take labs out, like, and we can't take the labs to, they don't pick up emergency labs. So she was like, well, typically, like, that's what they do and all of that. And I was like, well, no. And I feel like when you was telling me that, like, you was being as if I was being non-compliant, and that's not what I was trying to do, because I was still wanting to do. She was like, no, I wasn't saying that you were being non-compliant or whatever, but she blew it off and immediately just walked away. So I'm like, whatever. So fast forward, I had a resident that fell, so I was in the office talking to the nurse practitioner again. I overheard my director of nursing tell a fellow coworker, I don't think Charlansky likes me. And she was saying in this disgruntled voice, and she said, I fired people for stuff like that. I'm like, wow, really? Like, really? I don't know exactly what she was saying, but I heard my name, and then she was talking about me, and then she said, I fired people for stuff like that. I've heard her say this in the past about other staff members, so I know I'm not tripping. I know that's exactly what she said, because that's how she talks. But she thought she was going to say that about me to another employee. I don't know what her need is to say that to make her feel some type of way, but I felt very disrespected. So later on in the day, I gathered my feelings, gathered my emotions, and I had to decide, what should I do now? I know people play sides, I know people play things against each other, but I had to decide, okay, am I afraid of people coming against me if I'm right? Or should I be afraid of losing my job because I stood up for what was right? Because the way she acted towards me was wrong and disrespectful. Not only that, I had a coworker, when I was talking to her about something very important that needs to be done, which hasn't been getting done, that I'm tired of dealing with this. I've been dealing with for 2 years, and I'm basically like over it. And they get a phone call, and they take the phone and slam it against a wall. I was like, wow, so this is the leadership we're working with? So I walked out of the office, and then later on she was like, I'm sorry, I was going through this. And I understand, we have things that we go throughout life, and they just gotta stop taking it out on people and treating people bad. They need to get a counselor, get a coach, whatever it takes, because the energy you put out, and when you affect someone else, you can't take it back. Someone could have probably lost a kid, someone have gotten into an accident, somebody probably ended up on their last foot, somebody probably can't pay their bills. And when you put that negative energy out there, you can really hurt somebody's life for the worse. So people need to be thoughtful about how they treat people. I understand everyone's going through something, but you need to take a mental reflect of yourself and not take your negative energy and put it on somebody else. Take a couple deep breaths, meditate, say hallelujah, and be at peace. Because it all starts with you. Anyways, again, moving forward, I decided I'm going to write a letter, email to my director. And I told him exactly what happened, how I feel, and now it's up for him to decide what he's going to do. And I'm just over the narcissistic behaviors in the workplace and people using fear as a tactic to keep you in bondage of the mind. She thinks she can say certain things to try and attack me because she's in a position of leadership. That's wrong. She shouldn't do that, and it's not fair. But you know what? I'm in the part of the journey in my life to where I have overcome all the mental anguish and obstacles that keeps me from moving forward. I am strong. I am more than a conqueror. I overcome all things who strengthens me. And I know that I did this on the strength of the Lord, because He protects me and He covers me. And He has put me in a state of non-fearfulness. I am not afraid. I am not afraid. We're supposed to be getting COVID tests on Friday. I understand that everybody should be testing, but why weren't they testing us before? And now you're going to mandate it? I don't feel comfortable with that neither. So I just feel different about a lot of things, like there's another agenda. But don't take advantage of me. Don't force something upon me, and don't force me to deal with your ignorance. And meaningful behavior is a choice, and I choose not to deal with it. God bless you all.